What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Cameron, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to add a Springtrap mechanic to your Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. So, basically, in this tutorial, I'm just going to be teaching you guys how to do Springtrap. He walks around your establishment, goes through certain cameras, and then you have to lure him away. If he gets too close, he jump scares you. We're not going to do, like, the entire Springtrap mechanic where, like, he can randomly go into vents, or if your ventilation's low, he like hallucinations of him spawn all around the cameras. We're not doing nothing like that. We're just adding a lure button in our Springtrap, and that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. So I'm just going to jump into one of my random nights. I'm going to go into my night 4, and I am going to insert a couple of things. So I'm going to go right click, insert object, and the first object I'm going to insert is an active, and we're going to rename this to lure button. This is going to be our lure button. Also, make sure you go over to runtime options and uncheck follow the frame, and then once you've done that, double click into it and open up your lure button that you've made wherever it may be. Where's that? Okay, there it is. So we're gonna insert our lure button, not insert as animation, and there we go. So we have our lure button. I'm gonna just stick it like right there for right now. And as you can see, somewhat like our Foxy like my Foxy tutorial, as you can see, the lure button is in front of our static and everything, and we don't really want that. Remember, we want this to be in front of our cameras but behind our static. So basically, I'm gonna lock my static here real quick. The cameras are the third object on the fourth layer, and our lure button is the 24th object on the fourth layer. I want the lure button to be the fourth object on the fourth layer so that it's in front of our cameras, but it's behind everything else, which is what we want to do. So we're going to do that really quick. So we're going to go drag it out of the canvas, right click, order to back, right click, order forward 1, right click, order forward 1, and right click, order forward 1. And all depending on what is it, like what placement your cameras are at, it could be like the 5th object in the 4th layer, or the 6th object in the 4th layer. If that's the case, then you always want to make sure that your lure button is at least one object ahead of it. And then once we have that, we're going to stick it right there. Perfect. And now we're going to insert 2 counters. We're going to insert our first counter. This one's going to be called Springtrap location. Cool. And we're gonna right click, insert object, get another counter, and we're gonna stick it right there, and we're gonna rename it to, or we're gonna rename this one to Springtrap Countdown. Awesome. And I'm gonna go into my Springtrap location and my Springtrap Countdown and just color them different colors so that, you know, we're not like too confused, because they are both black and it might be hard to track them. So I'm just gonna color this one like light green. I'm gonna color the other one dark green. Also, sorry this tutorial took a little longer to get out. This time I was just plainly procrastinating. I wanted to get it out yesterday, but I downloaded and I bought Half-Life 2, so yeah, I just didn't. I'd much rather play Half-Life 2. I mean, you can't skip out on Half-Life 2. And once you have that, I'm going to drag it down here, and I'm going to get the other one, my Springtrap Countdown, and I'm going to make it a darker green, and color it all in. Alright. Boom, boom. Cool. Okay, so we have everything that we need, which is good. Awesome. Alright, and once we go into it, it should somewhat look like this. Our lure button, obviously, we'll worry about that a little later, like the lure button going away and stuff in the cameras, but basically, we're just gonna insert our Springtrap jumpscare next. I just wanted to make sure all this showed up correctly. And our Springtrap jumpscare is going to happen when Springtrap gets to our office, which is not a funny thing. Anyway, let's insert our Springtrap jumpscare. Go to insert object, go to active, okay. We're gonna rename this to Springtrap jumpscare. Perfect. Double click into it, and then you're just going to insert your Springtrap jumpscare, which I already have mine, and there we go. zoom out. And once you have your Springtrap jump scare, go over to view hotspot, hold down Alt, and press the middle square. And once you have that done, press OK. There we go. And then just stick it somewhere on the canvas. I press snap to grid and I'm putting it into the far right corner. Awesome. Go over and make sure it is not following the frame either. And we also got to make sure that it's not visible at the start as well. So make sure it's not visible at start at display options, and make sure that it's not following the frame over at runtime options. So once you have that done, we're going to go into the cameras. I'm going to go into the cameras next, and we are going to insert our Springtrap in the camera. So we're going to go new frame, and this frame is going to be where Springtrap is in camera 5. My camera 5 is his first location that he spawns. It's pretty much his spawn point. Get him, and he only comes through like 3 cameras, so it's not going to be too much. So we have Springtrap in camera 5. Insert, where's the other one? Springtrap in camera 4. Awesome. Go new frame and Springtrap in camera 2. Now obviously this is not the end of it, of course, because we need to have every single instance of Springtrap in our cameras with the other characters. So for example, back in camera 5, which is the main dining room, Bonnie and Chica can also go to the main dining room. And obviously Springtrap can too, so we're gonna have every single instance where it is just Springtrap, Bonnie and Springtrap, Chica and Springtrap, and then Bonnie, Chica, and Springtrap in the camera. So we're just gonna do that really fast. We're gonna go over to camera 5 where we have, where is it? Bonnie and Springtrap. Alright, go new frame. Get the other one where it's only Chica and Springtrap, or whatever cameras or whatever characters appear in the camera. For you guys, get my, where is it? Where is it? There it is. Chica and Springtrap. Awesome. Go to new frame and then get Bonnie, Chica, and Springtrap in it, which is right here. Awesome. And next, what I want to do is I want to insert, because now we got all the whole, like, we got the dining room done, basically. We have all of the characters appearing in the dining room. We have one where it's just Springtrap, one where it's Bonnie and Springtrap, one where it's Chica and Springtrap, and one where they're all in the camera. But my Springtrap goes to the right side of my establishment. So if I press OK, as you can see, he goes down to camera 4, and right behind Springtrap is camera 2. And Chica can also go to camera 4 and 2. So we need 2 instances where it's just Springtrap and where it's Chica and Springtrap. So to do that, we're going to go back into our cameras, go new frame, and we're going to insert one where it's Chica and Springtrap. Wait, I actually did that backwards. No. One after that. We're going to get the other one where he and Chica appear in camera 4, which should be right here. I don't know why Springtrap's so big in this frame, but, you know, whatever. And then we're going to have one where it's Chica and Springtrap in my right hallway, which should be right here. Cool. So we have every single instance of Springtrap in the camera. So we have one where it's just Springtrap in the stairway, and then we have one where it's Chica and Springtrap in the stairway. We have one where it's Springtrap in my right hall, and we have one where it's Chica and Springtrap in my right hall, because he can go back to, they can both appear in that camera. And once you have that done, go over to view hotspot, hold down Alt, and press the middle square so that it's all in one area, I guess. It's all in one hotspot. Press OK, or press enter. And then once you have that done, now we can begin coding. So we're going to go over to Event Editor. And what I'm actually going to do first is, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go over to my camera animation, and I want to make sure to hide my lure button and show my lure button. So I'm going to go to the right, and where it says lure button right here, where it says animation cam up is over, we're going to go over, go lure button, right click, effect, set alpha blending coefficient to 0, and then where it says camera animation trigger equals 0, I'm going to go right click, effect, set alpha blending coefficient to 255. Now, obviously, like I said in the past, when the alpha blending coefficient is 0, it's the most visible, and when it is set to 255, it's the least visible, which basically means it's visible, it's completely visible at 0, and it's invisible at 255. Now you might be wondering why we didn't just do like a invisible and reappear, and that's because it doesn't really look too good in my opinion, and it kind of messes up with the code. So I don't really want to do all of that. We're just gonna do the set alphabetic coefficient instead, because it's pretty much the same thing, but it doesn't really require as much code. So once you have that, we're gonna go all the way back down and go to our little notch right here, right click, insert a group of events. We're gonna title this Springtrap AI. There we go. I'm gonna put this up with the rest of my animatronic AIs, which should be up here. Gonna put this right behind or under Chica, and now we can get to work. So we're gonna go over to new condition, storyboard controls, start a frame, go over to the Springtrap jumpscare. It's the first thing. Right click, animation, stop. Right click, visibility, invisible. So there's no jump scare playing. It's not gonna play at all, which is awesome. We're gonna go over to our Springtrap location, set the counter to 0, and then go over to Springtrap countdown, set counter to random range 100 to 200. Now you can make it whatever you want. You can put like 500, 300, but I'm only putting 200 as my second number. And remember, since my location is set to 0 for Springtrap at first, and his Springtrap spawn point is in the dining room, which is my camera 5. However, that is his Springtrap's location is set to 0 when he's in camera 5. When he's in camera 4, his location is set to 1, and when he's in camera 2, which is right behind the jump scare, it is set to 2, and when he's in our office, it's set to 3. If that kind of makes sense. So, gonna do that, and then we're gonna go over to new condition, the timer, every user calculation, and I'm gonna say random range 100 to 125 because we do not want this tutorial to go on for too long. So we're gonna go 125 so it's a little quicker. And every random 100 to 125, we're gonna go over to Springtrap countdown, right click, subtract from counter 1, and then we're gonna go over to oh yeah, we gotta stay in this code and be sure to go right click, insert Springtrap location, convert the counter to value, make it different than 3. Because 3 is when Springtrap is in my office. Obviously, if your Springtrap takes a little longer to get to the office, you can make it like different than 5 if he takes like a longer route. But me, it's only like around 3 moves before he kills me. So yeah, that's pretty much how I'm gonna do it. After you have that, go over to new condition, go over to the Springtrap countdown, compare the count to value. When it is lower or equal than 0, go over to your Springtrap countdown, go over to set counter to our random 100 to 200 or whatever you want. Then go over to your Springtrap location, right click, add to counter 1. And after you have that, go over to your static. I keep forgetting to do this every single time, but be sure to go over to your static, go right click, effect, set alpha coefficient to 0. Remember, when it goes down to 0, it's going to go automatically back up to 150 roughly, I think. And once you have that, we're going to test it out. So let's see how this works. When this counter counts down to 0, this is going to add it to 1. Hopefully. Time to play the waiting game. Come on. Okay. As you can see, it counts up to 1. And if Springtrap was in this camera when this was equal to 0, he would appear in this camera because now this is equal to 1. Which is, I think, what we're going to do next because we have the idea down and it's actually working now. So, once you have that, go back up to your camera view. And we actually want to make sure that we have our cameras written down. So, we want to make sure we have this all memorized whenever these animatronics appear, disappear, whatever. So when my Springtrap appears in the dining room, which is camera 5, it's going to be frame 18, which means you have to force the animation frame to 17, stuff like that. So I'm going to go over to camera view equals 5 when my Springtrap first appears. I'm going to go right click, insert, going to go over to Springtrap location, convert the counter to value when it is different than 0. And what I want you to do is I want you to drag this all to these numbers that have the 5 on top. Do not drag it down to here, because then it's going to copy over and overlap another code. Just be sure to drag it over to the numbers instead, because then that adds on to it rather than copy over it or whatever. So then drag it down to this last one over here, and now we have it all added down, which is cool. Now this is basically when, to put this into perspective, this code right here is referring to when Springtrap, Bonnie, or Chica are not in the cameras. This one is referring to when Bonnie is only in the camera. This one's referring to only Chica in the camera, and this is one referring to both Bonnie and Chica in the cameras. But we want to make sure we have one with Springtrap in it too. So over at this code right here, where none of them are in the cameras, copy and paste it, go over to your copied code, and change this Springtrap location is different than 0, right click and negate that. You can do that, or you can just double click into it and change it to equal. But if you negate it, it's a lot faster because it does the same thing anyway. It just changes it from different to equal. And if you do it when it's equal, you change it from equal to different, if that makes any sense. So when Springtrap location is equal to 0, which is the spawn point, as I said before, he appears in frame 18 of my editor. So that means we have to force animation frame to 17 because the first frame is always 0. So in this case, we're going to force animation frame from 4 to 17, which is cool. And then we're going to copy down this one right here, where it's only Bonnie in the cameras. We want to copy that down and paste it. And then in the duplicated code, we want to negate this, the other one where it says Springtrap location is different than 0. We want to negate that so that it is when Bonnie and Springtrap are now in the camera. Which, when Bonnie and Springtrap are in that camera, that would be, for me, frame 21, which means we have to force animation frame to 20. So where is it? Right here? Yep. Gonna edit this and force animation frame to 20. Awesome. And then when only Bonnie and Springtrap are in the camera, it's force animation frame to 20. But when it's only Bonnie in the camera, it's force animation frame to 10. Next, we want to go to the next one, where it's only Chica in the camera. We want to copy and paste that down, and then negate the Springtrap is different than 0, so that it's now Chica and Springtrap in the camera. Which, when Chica and Springtrap are only in the camera, that would be frame 22, which means we have to force animation frame to 21. Can you do some for me? So, where is it? Force animation frame to 11. I want to edit that and force animation frame to 21. Awesome. And now in this code right here, where it's only Bonnie and Chica in the camera, we want to copy this, and then we want to edit the duplicated code, and instead change it so that when Springtrap location is different than 0, we want to right click, negate it, so that Bonnie, Chica, and Springtrap are now in the camera. Which, if that's the case, it would be frame 23, which means we have to force animation frame to 22. So I'm gonna go force animation frame to 22. Awesome. So now this should work for when it's equal to 0. So as you can see, the animation, the counter is set to 0 right now. That means he's in camera 5. Yup, there he is. He's behind our cameras. And as you can see, Bonnie and Springtrap are now in the cameras, because we have one. Now Chica and Bonnie are in the camera with Springtrap, and now Springtrap is gone, and he'll go over to camera 4 next, which is what we are going to do. So let's edit Springtrap. We're going to go over to camera view equals 4, which thankfully only has Chica in it. So we're going to go over, right click, insert, Springtrap location, compare the count to value. When it is different than 1, drag this down to 75 as well. Make sure it's the number and not the not in here. Make sure it's over in the number so that it copies over. And in this case, we're gonna copy this where it's when Springtrap and Chica are not in the camera. We want to copy and paste this so that it's only Springtrap in the camera. And when Springtrap is only in my camera 4 camera, that would be frame, what is it? Frame 19, which means I have to force animation frame to 18. So we're gonna go over, force animation frame to 18 when only Springtrap is in the camera. Awesome. Then we're gonna go over where it says when only Chica is in my camera 4. I'm going to copy this down and edit the duplicated code so that I'm going to negate the Springtrap is different than 1 and make it so that both Chica and Springtrap are in that camera. And when that's the case, that would be frame 24, which means I have to force animation frame to 23. So go over, force animation frame to 23. Awesome. And now it should work when he's added one to it. So let's see if this works for now, and then we're gonna do the same thing for pretty much camera 2 when the time comes. So there we go, Bonnie and Springtrap are in the camera, and then when it's set to 1, Springtrap will go over to camera 4. Correct? Yep, there he is. And Chica will also appear as soon, so I'm just gonna wait. Yep, Chica and Springtrap are now in the camera, and since Springtrap and Chica go down to camera 2 as well, we're gonna have to do the same thing for that. So we're gonna go back up to where it says camera view equals 2, and where it says Chica location is different than 3. We're gonna go right click, insert, Springtrap location, compare the count to value. When it is different than 2, we're gonna drag this down to this number right here too, where it also has camera view equals 2 on it, and we're going to copy the top one where it says both Chica and Springtrap are not in the camera. I'm gonna copy and paste this and change this number down here where it says Springtrap location is different than 2 and edit it so that it equals 2, which means he's only in that camera. Which, if he's only in that camera, that would be frame 20, which means we get the force animation frame to 19. Force animation frame 19. Cool. And then we're going to go over to where it says only Chica's in the camera. We're going to copy this and then change the duplicated code so that when Chica's in the camera, we want to go over to where it says Springtrap location is different than 2, right click and negate it so that it is now Springtrap is equal to 2. Springtrap location is equal to 2, which means Springtrap and Chica are in the camera. Which, if that's the case, that would be frame 25 for me, which means with the force animation frame to 24. If that makes sense. I know this doesn't really make... Oh, nope, not that. I know this doesn't make too much sense because I'm talking kind of quick even though I'm kind of tired, but we got the basic idea down. So this should theoretically work now. He should be able to walk through the cameras as normal. And then if this works, the next move we're going to do is we are going to add our Springtrap jump scare, and then we're going to add in the lure ability so he can go away. So that we can lead him away, rather. He is. Oh, he moved. He's in camera 4 now. Yeah, maybe green on green was not a good idea, but whatever. We're already here. So there he is. There's Chica in the camera as well. And then he moved to camera 2. He's right in the back now. And Springtrap will, Chica will also move. And then when this counter counts down and this equals 2, that means this is going to change to 3, and then that basically means we're going to get a jump scare. So, there we go. And I'm just going to let Chica jump scare me, because why not? She does work for me. So, both jump scares, alright. So, once we have that, now we're going to work on the jump scare. So, we're going to go over to Springtrap AI, compare the count to value, Springtrap location, compare the count to value. When it is equal to 3, I'm going to go right click, insert. We're going to go over to special conditions, go over to limit conditions, only one action, one event loops, which means there needs to be something else that causes it to play the event again, because otherwise it's only going to play once. So when Springtrap location is equal to 3, we're going to go over to the timer, right click, fire event after given delay. We're going to say 0.03 of a second, and we're going to say Springtrap jump scare. Oh my god, what the hell is wrong with me? Springtrap jump scare. Copy this down. Okay. Go over to new condition, the timer, on event, Springtrap jump scare. We're gonna go over to our Springtrap jump scare, and then go over, right click, animation, start, right click, visibility, reappear. And when that Springtrap jump scare plays, we want to go over the timer, fire event at a given delay. We'll say after roughly 1 second, I guess. that seems well-rounded enough. We will play game over. Oh, game over. And once again, we do not have to copy this down because back in our basic animatronic AI, we already have a timer event that says game over. So basically, we know how to do a game over, which is great. So after a second, it's gonna play game over, and it's gonna take us to our game over. So yeah, we got that done. Now it is time to play our lure button and actually get our lure button to work. So to do this, the way we're gonna do this is oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. Gonna load up our frame. I'm gonna go into it. Basically, when Springtrap is in camera 4, I'm able to click camera 5, the lure button on camera 5, which will lure him back to camera 5 when he's in camera 4. And if he's in camera 2 and I press the lure button in camera 4, he's gonna go back to camera 4. And later on in the tutorial, we're gonna add a cooldown system too so that you can't just infinitely use it whenever you want. And we're also gonna make it so that the lure button only appears in certain cameras. That's the basic synopsis of it. So we're gonna go over to new condition, go over to the mouse pointer and keyboard, the mouse, use your clicks on an object, the left button, and we're gonna say the lure button. We're gonna go right click, insert. We're gonna go over to our camera animation trigger, so you can only click this when the camera's up. I'm gonna go over to convert the counter to a value, 1. So basically you can only click it when the camera's up. Right click, insert, go over to view camera, convert the counter to value. When it is equal to 5, which for me is my dining room camera, which is his spawn point. So basically, when you click on this button, when the camera's up on camera 5, I'm going to go right click, insert. I'm going to go over to Springtrap location, convert the counter to value. When it is equal to 1, which means he's in camera 4, I'm going to go over to the timer, right click, fire event after given delay, and we will say after 2 seconds, because it does take Springtrap some time to get lured back. Actually, I'll say 3 seconds. We're going to say Springtrap. Wait, did I spell that? No. Springtrap lured. There we go. Copy this down. And you only really have to copy that down once, roughly, I think. Go over to the timer, on event, Springtrap lured. Wait, did I? Oh, God damn it. Alright, it didn't copy over correctly, so I have to actually type it in. If you're going to type it in like this, make sure that you have it case sensitive, because if you don't have it case sensitive, then it's not going to work. Go over to Springtrap lured, and on timer event Springtrap lured, go over to the Springtrap location, right click, subtract from counter 1, which means he moves back. And to prove that this works, we're going to go over to run frame. Gonna wait till Springtrap moves to camera 4, and then on camera 5, we're able to click it. So basically, right now, the camera animation trigger is set to 1. Our camera view is set to 5. And Springtrap is set to 0 right now, but when it's set to 1, and we click this lure button, all when the code is at the same time, he should go back, right? Right? Yep, he's right there. I don't know why that took so long, but he's back. He's back in camera 5. Awesome. I'm gonna actually close this real quick because if they jump scare me, I will be pissed. And when he moves again, we're gonna click the lure button again, and we're gonna wait for him to come back. Yep, there he is. He's back. Now, as you can see, he kind of just spawns back. So what we want to do is we want to add some static to it too, because adding a little static fade in always helps with FNaF fan games and realism and stuff like that. So whenever you click on the lure button, go over to static. Oh, excuse me. Go over to effect, set alpha penny coefficient to 0, and then just drag this down to on timer event Springtrap lured as well, because when he gets lured, he'll just go back. Makes sense? But obviously, this is only when he is in camera 4, roughly, when his location is set to 1. We want to make it as well for when he's in my camera 2 and I'm in camera 4. We want to be able to lure him back from camera 4 when he's in camera 2, if that makes sense. And to do that, we're going to go over to this code right here where it says user clicks on lure button when this is all the same thing. We're going to copy this, copy and paste, and we're going to go over to where it says camera view equals 5, double click into that, and we're going to say when camera view is equal to 4, which is my camera 4, and we're going to say when Springtrap location is set to 2, which is when he's in camera 2 for me. And when that's the case, we already copied it all down, so it's all going to do it for us. But basically, the static is going to be set to 0, and then the Springtrap lured will lure him back, which should work. So we're going to open this up. No, God damn it, I pressed the wrong button. Get rid of that. Oh, God damn it. Okay, go back into it, and we're going to see if this works. We're going to let Springtrap get over to my camera 2, then we're going to lure him back from camera 4, and then we're going to lure him back from camera 5 when he's in camera 4. So we're going to do this. Oh, he's gone. Oh, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Okay. Go on, you move it quickly. You don't like that. Okay. So we're going to wait for him to move. If you could hurry up a little bit. Okay, he moved. He's now in my camera 2, but when I press the lure button, when he's in camera 2, he should go back. Yep, there he is. Close that door. And then when he's here, I'm going to go over to camera 5 and lure him back. Yep, there he is. Now, as you guys can see as well, if you like where this is at so far, then you're probably good for right now. But as you can see, if you press the lure button, this counter doesn't really reset whenever Springtrap gets lured back. And if you want Springtrap's like counter right here to reset so that he kind of has like he has to go through it all over again, because as you can see right there, like he can just go over to the right camera, all depending on where this is, because this doesn't stop no matter what. But if you want it to stop, you can always go over, get out of this really fast. You can always go over to on-timer event Springtrap lured, and you can go over to the Springtrap countdown, right click, set counter to random range 100 to 200, or whatever your range is. That way, if you do that, he'll pretty much get reset, which could always work out, which always makes it a lot better. So that's pretty much good for the lure tutorial. We got the lure function to work. If Springtrap comes to our office, he jump scares us, he takes us to a game over. A happy dandy duty. But of course, one thing that I think would work a lot better is if you can only use the lure button in certain cameras, because as you can see right now, you can obviously see that I can use the lure button anywhere, right? I can use this lure button. Whoa, what am I doing? I can use my lure button anywhere. I can use it in my Foxy camera, camera 3, camera 1. But the thing is, I can't really do nothing. Like, I can click it, but it doesn't do nothing because we don't have any, like, lure capabilities. So, I want to make sure, I'm going to just click this lure button so the Springtrap goes back. I want to make it so that the lure button only appears in camera 5, camera 4, and camera 2. Actually, it would only be camera 4 and 5 because you can't even use the lure button in camera 2 anyway, if you know what I mean. So, we are going to go back and we're going to make the lure button only appear in about like 2 cameras. So, we're going to go back down to our Springtrap AI, go over to new condition, view camera, compare the constant value is equal to 5, right click, insert, go over to camera animation trigger. When it is set to 1, we're going to go over to our lure button, right click, visibility, reappear. We're going to copy this and then change the view camera to 4 because my lure button only appears in camera 4 and camera 5. So as you can see right there, we have it so that's view camera equals 5. It appears when it's in the 4th camera, it appears, but we're going to go over to new condition, view camera, compare the constant value. When it is different than 5, right, we're going to go right click, insert, view camera, compare the constant value. When it is different than 4, we want to go over and make sure that our lure button is now invisible. Perfect. So now this should work. No, I don't mean to run the application. Run the frame and see if this works. So basically, when it's different than 5 or 4, it should not appear. As you can see right now, it's not appearing. Awesome. Not any of these cameras. But if I go to camera 4, it appears. If I go to camera 5, it appears. But if I click away, then it doesn't appear. Cool. Now I press the lure button for shits and gigs, and he goes back. Yep. And we got the lure button done. Now, if you are satisfied with this, if you're completely happy with this, and you're like, all right, I like my lure button, I think it works out pretty good, then you can keep it like this. But if you want to learn how to add like a cooldown to it so you can't use it constantly, then just stick around. But if you're happy with this, and you're not really worried about a cooldown or nothing, you can just leave the video now. But for the rest of you that want to learn how to add a cooldown system whenever you press the lure button, I got you. So we're going to go back to the frame editor and we're going to insert 3 more things. We're going to go right click, insert object, the counter. We're going to rename this to just cooldown. Cool down. Awesome. And I'm going to go into this and change it to white so that we can see it a lot better in the frame. All right, click around, edit this all in. All right, there we go. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Boom. Cool. I'm going to drag the lure down here. And then we're going to go right click, insert. We're going to insert another counter. We're going to rename this to cool down activation. What the, why am I spelling it all off today? Cooldown activation. I'm probably just gonna go into this and also edit this so that's also white. So go in, edit this. I wish there was just a automatic fill button for all these numbers and letters and whatever, but fortunately there's not. So go there, boom. I'm gonna put this right under my cooldown. And the last thing we're going to insert is we're gonna go insert object, string, and we're going to rename this to cooldown string, which basically just shows a bunch of dots that eventually disappear, meaning that you can use your cooldown again instead of just a counter, you know what I mean? Kind of like in FNaF 3. And then we're gonna go over to text options, gonna change my color of my text to white, change the font to terminal, and I'm going to change the size of it to 20. Cool, I'm gonna go down. There we go. Oh, nope, did not mean to do that. Awesome. Gonna put that right here. And obviously, just like the lure button, there's an issue where it's in front of everything else, which means it doesn't really build immersion too well. So to fix this, we want to make this the 4th object on the 4th layer, kind of like the lure button. But except if you make the cooldown string the 4th object on the 4th layer, then the lure button is going to be bumped up an object, and it's going to be the 5th object in the 4th layer instead. So to do this, I'm going to just go right click, order to back. I'm going to go right click, order forward 1, right click, order forward 1, right click, order forward 1. So now it is in front of our cameras, but it's behind our static, which builds up immersion pretty well in my opinion. So after you have that, we're going to go over to settings and properties, and we are going to insert 4 more paragraphs. And in paragraph 1, we're just going to put 1 dot. Paragraph 2, we're going to put 2 dots. Paragraph 3, we're going to put 3 dots. And I think you can see where this is going. Paragraph 4, 4 dots. And then paragraph 5, 5 dots. This is obviously the cooldown dots whenever you use the lure and you have to wait. So after you have that, we're going to go here. And we're going to go up to event editor. We're going to go up to camera animation very briefly. Go over to animation cam up is over. Go over to your cooldown string. Right click, effect, alpha blending coefficient to 0. Go down to animation, camera animation trigger is set to 0. Go right click, effect, set alpha blending coefficient to 255. And there we go. So whenever it is set to 0, which means it's closed, it's going to be invisible like our lure button, but when it's up, it's going to be the most visible. You see where I'm getting at this. So after you have that, we're going to do the same thing with the string like we did for the lure. So just go down to where it says Springtrap AI, and where it says user clicks on the lure button, or actually no, not there. Whenever it says view camera equals 5, view camera equals 4, while this is all up, be sure to go over to your string, your cooldown string, go right click, visibility, reappear for these 2 right here, and then when it says different than 5 and different than 4, then go right click, visibility, invisible. So it should be kind of like the same thing as the other one, but like the lure button, but it's just with a string. Cool. So now we're gonna get the cooldown function to actually work. So when user clicks on left button, when they click on the lure button, we want to go right click, insert, go over to cooldown, compare the currency value. When it is lower or equal than 0, and we're gonna do this for the other ones too. We're gonna go right click, insert, cooldown, compare the currency value. When it is lower or equal than 0, and when it's lower or equal than 0, then we're gonna go over to the cooldown, right click, set counter to 100, and then we're just gonna drag this down to the other one as well. And then we're gonna go over to cooldown activation, right click, set counter to 1, and then drag that down as well. So basically, whenever you click on the lure button, the counter is set to 100, which will count down to 0. When it counted down to 0, then you can use the lure button again, and then the activation will go back to 0 and reset. If that kind of makes sense. So we're gonna go over to new condition, go over to cooldown activation, compare the currency value. When it is equal to 1, and we're gonna go right click, insert the timer. Excuse me, we're gonna say like every 500ths of a second, I guess. You can always use a calculation and make it random, but I'm gonna just use 500ths of a second for now. And every 500ths of a second, we'll go right click to cooldown, subtraction counter 1, cool, and then we're gonna go over to new condition, cooldown, compare the currency value. When it is lower or equal than 0, we want to go over to our cooldown activation, right click, set to 0, and then go over to our cooldown, right click, set counter to 0. So pretty much it always stays at 0, which in my opinion works pretty well. And I believe that this works. Hopefully. The counters all work and whatever. So we're going to wait for Springtrap to move. And then when he moves, I'm going to press the lure button. And then when I press the lure button, this counter, I think this is the cooldown that's the cooldown. This will be set to 100, this will be set to 1, and then this will count down to 0, and this will be to 0. And we'll see how this works. So press 0. As you can see, the cooldown activation is active, and boom. It works. So we can't click it again after that. You can't click the lure button when the numbers are higher than 0. When the cooldown is higher than 0, you can't click this. So you can't just constantly mash it. You can't do that. But you can now press it again, obviously, when you want to. And Bond jump scared me. Thank you. But, of course, I believe that's a little boring and it's a little too inconspicuous. So I'm going to go over to new condition. Go over to the cooldown. Compare the counter to value. When it is set to 100... I'm going to copy this about 6 more times, I believe. Copy and paste this a bunch more times. And then change the second number right here to 80. Change this one to 60, which is basically my increments. You can make your increments whatever. It could be like increments of 15, 10, whatever. That means you got to add more dots. But if you want to do that, you can do that. I'm going to put 40 for this one. And then 20 for this one. And then I'll put 0 for this one, even though I don't really think it matters too much. But when the cooldown is set to 100, we're going to go over to our cooldown string, right click, set paragraph to 1. And then we're going to go over to where it says the counter equals 80, right click, set paragraph to 2, right? Go over to where it says counter equals 60, right click, set paragraph to 3. Then go over to where it says counter equals 40, right click, set counter to 4. And then where it says counter equals 20, right click, set counter to 5. And then when the cooldown is set to 0, go right click, visible, visibility, invisible. But of course, if you make it invisible, you have to make it reappear. Which, if that's the case, and you want your cooldown string to reappear, I would just say go over to where it says user clicks on the lure button, these two codes, and then just go cooldown string, right click, visibility, reappear, and then just drag that down one more time because it's gonna go invisible anyway. So let's see if this works. I believe it does. I have faith that it does, but we will see. Anyway, let's wait it up. So there he is. Oh, where'd he go? I'm gonna lure him back. As you can see, this is now counting up, which means you can't use it. And then it goes invisible, which means we can use it again, which means it all works out. Awesome. So that's about it for the Springtrap tutorial. Obviously the last thing you can probably do is take these counters out, but leave your string in there so that it kind of builds up that immersion, I guess. So it's not like you're expecting it to end or whatever. You're just kind of hoping. But I believe this tutorial helps a lot because, you know, Springtrap lure. I've never really done a lure before, but now that I learned it, I might use it in the future. But if I press the lure button, this counter goes up. I mean, the string goes up, does its thing. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next episode with most likely a Scott Cawthon tutorial, which is basically how Scott Cawthon does his AI in the first game. But anyway, thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you guys.